The world is urgently looking for a solution to the coronavirus pandemic, and there are many ongoing clinical trials to test various potential antivirals in some countries.
That's right. Now, stakeholders in Africa have already agreed and met that the continent needs to develop and fund its own vaccine production capacities in order to be able to combat the coronavirus and other future diseases.
You know, Kisley, before the coming of Western medicine, Africans and Nigerians were dealing with diseases of the time with local solutions, and they were able to treat sicknesses facing people at the time.
Of course, Africa is still very rich in herbs, and despite the talk about a setback with regard to the Madagascar kill, there's no denying the fact that the attempts by the country made in terms of finding solutions towards COVID-19 are commendable. And indeed, some Nigerian research institutes and traditional medicine practitioners have made claims of possessing herbal remedies for treating coronavirus.
And there have also been claims that the Federal Ministry of Health was screening 19 local farms for the production of herbal drugs ranging from the outright cure for COVID-19 to the treatment of the symptoms. How many of these claims have turned out to be promising?
Well, that's probably why the federal government is now seeking to verify claims by inaugurating a committee, as it were, to authenticate what is being touted as COVID-19 remedies and vaccines by researchers, scientists, and traditional medicine practitioners.
Plus, a 30 million naira financial reward is still on the table to any Nigerian researcher, scientist, or traditional medicine practitioner with an effective vaccine for cure for the coronavirus. The question that quickly pops to mind is, how effective is this incentive when the promise is for after the vaccine has been developed?
Well, Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Mr. Boss Mustafa, announced some time ago that the Central Bank of Nigeria will support research efforts aimed at finding the cure to COVID-19. Now, how many research efforts have been supported since the funding was announced? And given Nigeria's local challenges, what are the prospects for a homegrown herbal remedy in the near future? Of course, we shall be engaging guests on these issues and more in the course of our conversation segment. My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and I welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, reaching as always live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. And I would like to also formally welcome one of our new presenters, Yusuf Nadabo Usman. Pleasure to have you with us, Yusuf.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Okay. It is a pleasure to welcome you too to this Wednesday's edition of the program. And following tradition on Good Morning Nigeria, we shall bring you some of the complementary segments, including the newspaper review, business news, and more. We shall also be engaging agri-experts on Port borer-resistant cowpea production as a second topic this morning, as well as highlight some of the gains Nigeria has recorded in our quest for comprehensive national identity in this second anniversary of Nigeria's National Identity Day. For now, let's join Chimobi Waltonaji, who is seated and ready with the morning news highlights. Good morning, Chimobi.
Hello, good morning, Yusuf and Kingsley. It's good to be here this morning. Good morning, Nigeria, and here's the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari has described as not only justifiable but in the best interest of the country the loans taken by the federal government towards addressing the dire shortfall in the nation's critical infrastructure. The president stated this at a virtual meeting with members of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council on the state of Nigeria's economy and the way forward.
Because of the infrastructural deficit, we just have to take loans to make sure we got the roads, the rail, and more importantly, the power.
Meanwhile, the reopening of airports, especially for international flights, appeared to have taken off smoothly, but there are some conditions accompanying the resumption of this that the Senate believes might affect the system if not reviewed. The Senate Joint Committee on Health and Aviation met with the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 for explanations.
There were situations from specific countries where we had up to 40% of the passengers in a single flight coming in with a negative COVID-19 PCR result and subsequently being tested and found to be positive.
When you look at the cost of testing itself, most of these boys you see traveling, they are all struggling. Those of them who will be coming, they are struggling. You can't say 12,000 naira is no money.
In the meantime, candidates in the Edo State governorship election have affirmed their commitment to a safe, free and credible election on Saturday. Now, this is at the signing of a peace accord in Benin, powered by the National Peace Committee.
We, as a people, should aspire to see Nigeria where people feel safe to come out of their homes to cast their vote without any fear and need for police deployment. As we are all aware, the election will not hold in the absence of a peaceful atmosphere.
In other news, the electricity tariff and hike in petroleum pump prices are to save the country from the burden of corrupt subsidy regime, which has become regressive and impacting negatively on sector investments. The explanation dominated discussions at the federal government bilateral dialogue with the organized labor on the need to encourage competitiveness in petroleum and power sectors.
To achieve success in this quest, we will need all hands to be on deck.
So let's also look for solution. How do we mitigate this impact, which is very pronounced on workers?
Now, authorities of the Nigerian Railway Corporation have described as untrue and mischievous a story on the social media alleging that an Abuja-bound passenger train was attacked by armed bandits.
We call the security on board that they should go to the village head and tell them to warn their children that if such thing happen again, we are coming to pick them, not the children.
And this is the graphic work, as you can see. They claim that this coach also was attacked. And you can see if actually is attacked, where is the glasses? And these coaches, we've not even started using it. It's among the new one they brought, and we've not started using it.
Now, current data from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC) shows 19 new cases of COVID-19, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 56,478 in the country. Now, these new cases, Lagos has 33, Plateau 27, Kaduna has 17, Ogun 6. The FCT confirmed 4 new cases, while Anambra, Ekiti and Nasarawa states recorded 1 each. Now, on the cases per state chart, Lagos leads with 18,696 confirmed cases, followed by the FCT with 5,451 cases, and Oyo has 3,221 confirmed cases. Now, 44,430 recovered patients have been discharged, with 1,088 deaths so far. All right, and that concludes the morning news. Good morning, Nigeria. On potential herbal remedies for COVID-19 continues after this break with Kingsley and Yusuf. Good morning.
She cries. She cries in anguish and in pain. She bears the scourge of her grief. She toils in vain for justice and succumbs to silence. He gloats over his malady. Like a beast, he pounces with no remorse. Her cry means nothing. Her pain feeds her shame. Like an orphan, she's left to grieve in solitude. But no more will she cry in vain. Her adversaries will henceforth bear the brunt of their cruelty. Rape is evil. Rape is a plague, a pandemic of monumental consequences. We must unite and kick it out of our society.
Connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 2255 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works. Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works.
Like every mother, I'm worried about dangerous insects, especially mosquitoes, which spread diseases like malaria to my loved ones. This year, I'm not afraid. I'm using New Mortein Insta-Kill. New Mortein Insta-Kill's improved formulation knocks down mosquitoes 2 times faster. Not even a single mosquito is spared because even one mosquito bite can cause malaria. Mortein Insta knocks down mosquitoes 2 times faster.
Guess what?
What?
I scored a hat trick today.
Cool!
Wow!
And how did you celebrate?
Just do your hands like this.
And hold your nose like this.
Body odor is caused by germs. That's why you need the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which protects against 99.9% odor-causing germs with an extra burst of menthol freshness. Dettol, be 100% sure.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now it's time for business news. With Nigeria's Securities and Exchange Commission moving to regulate cryptocurrency and other digital assets. Let's join our correspondent, Ronami Egirani, for details.
On Monday, the Nigerian Securities Exchange Commission, SEC, assigned the title of securities to crypto assets and will henceforth regulate cryptocurrency transactions on the Nigerian stock market. This is a complete 360 by the SEC, as in the past it had warned against investing in the digital currency due to its volatile and risky nature. The new regulation applies to any individual or corporate body involved in any type of blockchain-related activity and digital assets service. This includes foreign or non-residential issuers and sponsors who will be required to set up a base in Nigeria before being allowed to operate. The SEC has said that it is essential to make sure that digital offerings operate in a manner that is consistent with investor protection, public interest, market interest, and transparency. They reiterated that the objective is not to stifle innovation, but to create standards that encourage ethical practices, thereby making the market fair and more efficient. Still on the stock market, let's see how the Nigerian Stock Exchange fared yesterday, Tuesday the 15th of September 2020. With business news, I'm Ronami Egirani.
Well, thank you, Ronami, for the business package. Newspaper review is next on Good Morning Nigeria.
Newspaper reviewer Bayo Tobe is right here with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kingsley. Good morning. Good morning, Usman Nadabo.
Thank you
Good
very
to
much,
meet
Bayo.
you. It's the first time meeting you.
Yeah, sure. Thank
Good
you
morning,
very much.
Nigeria.
Yeah.
All right, we have the three papers for review this morning. We have the Punch, we have the Nigerian Pilot, as well as the Nation. So let's go quickly through the headlines on the window page of the Punch newspaper. Above the nameplate, CBN unveils 200 billion naira loans for federal government's family housing project. And poverty, our strongest weapon against COVID-19. That's according to the PTF coordinator. 13.22% inflation rate. Address insecurity, forex, energy. Experts tell Buhari. Details on page 27. And an earpiece there beside the nameplate says Edo decides 2020. 14 parties signed peace accord, pledge violence-free poll. PDP governors and bigwigs converge on Benin for Obasanjo's final campaign. Edo carpets Tinubu as Lagos APC defense ex-governor. And this story says federal government and Labour's 8-hour meeting ends in deadlock. With 3 riders, petrol could have been sold for 183 naira per litre, says federal government. 7-day ultimatum stands, no acceptable explanation from government. And Labour meets today, and TUC says planned protest and strike on course. And you can see the photographs there from the Eagle Square, the cross-section of the Fresh Weeks, who were called to the bar yesterday in the Federal Capital Territory. Emir Bill dies, and Buhari and others mourn. Edo Ondo polls, rigging is coup d'etat, says Tambuwal. Federal government plans ID for internally displaced persons. NDDC probe, Akpabio recants, meets National Assembly clerk and panel. And Bochi man arrested for luring daughter with 50 naira and raping her. Kaduna LGs in full control of their funds. That's according to RFI. All right.
And on the Nation newspaper, we have inflation in 2-year highest at 13.22%. That's going to be on page 25. Of course, Ganduja Oke's 4.66 billion naira for school feeding and teachers to get allowance, that is. And that one goes on page 30. Emir of Bill dies at 80 on page 30. And of course, still on that page, rather on page 6, that is federal government Lagos stop barge operations on Marina coastline and troops hit bandits in Benue. That's on page 12. And the lead story is about labor workers shocked by petroleum-powered rates hike. The writer, government should provide succor. Why we are borrowing by Buhari. On Edo elections, Edo 2020, cheers for Slen Ghana. Rather, why voters should reject Obaseki by Tinubu. And we also have a weekend max case for Governor Shaibu. Yamu will deliver. And also Tambol, election will define Buhari's electoral legacy. And talking about Ghana, cheers for Slen Ghana. Obscene, says Wole Soyinka, Nobel laureate. And then we go on page 4, there is the peace accord signed, brought together by the Peace Committee of Nigeria, Abdusalami to Obaseki, and Yamu, he says your integrity is at stake. And that's on the Nation newspaper. You can get that story on page 4.
Well, let's start with the 2 topical issues. First, the talks about petrol price and electricity tariff, and also the advantage of peace now, commitment to peace in Edo election. Yesterday, there was talk between the federal government and Labour. The Minister of Labour, Dr. Chris Ngige, opened the meeting by saying that there was need for all to join hands to fashion out a way for the country to survive from the economic challenges it is having. But before the meeting went underway, he added that the position of government is that they are not in a position to reverse the new pump price and electricity tariff. The Minister of State for Labour, who was also in attendance, Mr. Festus Keyamo, said that the meeting was intended to derive from Labour and seek their input in ways to salvage the country. The Honourable Minister of State for Petroleum also painted the picture in as it has been. He says before 2016, subsidy has taken about 3.74 billion annually. But between 2016 and 2019, it was reduced to about 1 billion annually. And between that time and 2019, Nigeria expended about 10.4 trillion on subsidy. And it is obvious that this cannot continue. But he added, however, that all subsequent administration realized the need to deregulate, but didn't have the courage until now that the situation has forced the nation to deregulate. The NLC Ayubawada also asserted that the fuel cost and electricity tariff has aggravated the hardship of Nigerians. He said workers who have lost their job and livelihood are now forced to put up with this unbearable cost. Kadri Olaleye of the TUC says that workers are losing about 15% of their wages as a result of the price hikings in petroleum oil price and electricity tariff. And he says that TUC stands by its 7 days ultimatum. Ultimately, everybody was talking at each other. They were not even listening to one another, not to talk about seeing each other's perspective. Apparently, everybody was keeping their positions. But the challenge is that it's like a patient who is in agony in the hospital, and he requires painful medicine, and the doctor is saying, you need to take this painful medicine to get out of your problems. But relations of the patients are saying that this is too much. That is a very, very critical dilemma. We need to see how we go. Atmosphere of peace has been assured for...
just before we get into the Edo election,
yes,
on the increase in the pump price of petrol and what happened in the past, I think it's important to set the record straight. The Obasanjo administration deregulated diesel, that is automotive gas oil, AGO, which is why the price, of course, then was subject to supply and demand, or demand and supply. In 2012, President Goodluck Jonathan, who was then president of the country, tried to totally deregulate the downstream sector by removing the last subsidy, as it were, on PMS, which is petrol. And there was a great deal of social unrest in the country. So the decision then, political decision, was to whether remove subsidy and continue to face the social upheaval, or continue with the subsidy regime. So that was the choice. It wasn't as if nobody was courageous enough, but the circumstances are such now that the reality is staring all of us in the face. Do you have the funds to continue to manage this subsidy regime? And there has also been a gradualist approach. We saw what happened beginning around March or May this year, when the government said, look, we would allow the international prices of oil to determine the price or retail price of crude oil, of refined petroleum products, most particularly PMS. And so you saw that price variation from month to month. So when oil prices dipped, the pump price of petrol also dipped. So that was a preparation for you to say, look, at the end of the day, the prices also go up. In the past, when we used to jubilate to say that crude oil prices have risen, now we know that when crude oil prices rise, we're also going to feel the pinch. But government is also proposing auto gas as an alternative. I mean, those are issues that, of course, we need to deal with. But just the background to say that nobody dealt with regulation in the past isn't exactly correct. Yes.
But I think the COVID-19 came up with its own issues about this deregulation thing. Even the fact that it is more or less like a prompter for the government to have taken such a drastic decision. And of course,
COVID-19 has devastated the economy of the world, everywhere, every nation of the world, including the strong economies of the world. And even the United Kingdom has reported a drastic drop in their economy, and they have all declared that the economy is slipping into recession. So it's a worldwide phenomenon. Yeah. But we already had these underlying challenges with deregulation of fuel. And the other challenge was that electricity tariff had been in contention. As far back as last year, the discourse have always raised the need for them to raise the tariff so as to be able to break even. And there has been pressure on them that, no, you have to delay it because of this. But unfortunately, it has had to come at a time when it is coinciding with the fuel hike, and it's become like a triple jeopardy. A pandemic from COVID-19, electricity tariff, and fuel hike. Well, the issue of the peace in Edo State is everybody's mind is now at peace, in the sense that the gladiators in the context have all committed to peace. INEC chairman led the delegation by asserting that the election will be free and fair, and enjoyed all to cooperate to have that atmosphere, in the sense that if there is violence, then there will be no atmosphere to have a peaceful election. The National Peace Committee, led by General Absalom Abubakar, was there to get the gladiators signed to the peace accord, and that has been reiterated, because the Governor Godwin Obaseki said the monarch, the Omandoba Nedu Ukuapolopolo, Obewari II, had reiterated that go and tie down your talks. Don't let them force violence on Edo. And all of them have committed to that. It is hoped that this will be seen through, and there will be peace for the people of Edo to determine who is to rule them come September 19. The United Kingdom has already said that they are sending observers to both Edo and Ondo elections, and they have also added that if there are individuals they identify to be associated with violence, then they will have no choice by imposing visa restriction and also threatening their assets if they have any in the United Kingdom. It will be recalled that the United States Embassy also made a similar gesture about those who are associated with violence.
Yeah, Bayo, thanks a lot. We are pressed. We have 3 topics in our conversation segment. But there is a headline here, I read it from the Punch. It says CBN unveils 200 billion naira loans for federal government's family housing project. Page 31. I think that no matter how well-meaning the central bank intends its interventions to be, economic scholars must be concerned as to whether Nigeria's central bank has now become a retail bank. You intervene in agriculture, you intervene in flood, you intervene now in housing. Where is your mortgage system? Where is your mortgage system? If federal government, the central bank is not going to be providing loans, you have a federal mortgage bank, you have all kinds of primary mortgage institutions, and so on and so forth. So exactly what is happening? So when we studied economics, we were told that the central bank was a lender of last resort. I hope it is not the case now that the central bank is becoming a lender of first resort.
Well, maybe the situations have become a matter of last resort and central bank will have to come in. But like you have said, it is worrying that even the Federal Mortgage Bank, that primarily public servants are supposed to contribute a percentage of their salary as part of the National Housing Fund so that they could access the loan. For over the years, the success has not been quite encouraging. And therefore, one of the challenges of the nation is a grievous housing deficit. That's right. And that is why perhaps it has become a necessity to supplement what is available there. The Minister for Housing and Urban Development has been going around the country, and there has been a lot of federal housing projects going on. Again, it is part of the efforts to supplement the housing deficit, but that cannot be enough. Perhaps central bank is
that's fine.
But I agree with you. I agree with you that
the issue is just with the role of the central bank.
Yes,
and that's all. That's just my chief concern. Bayo Atoyebe, we had the Nigerian pilot, basically the same set of stories that we read
about inflation.
We got to inflation. I'm sure we have the opportunity of returning to some of these topics going forward. Thanks a lot for being around. We'll see you again.
Thanks
tomorrow.
for having me, as usual.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria live on NTA's network service. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we have topics to discuss.
Son, being good at something requires strength. It requires putting in more. That's why the new improved Bonvita is packed with vitality and a richer, creamier taste.
NTA TV College Jos, an affiliate of Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, is currently admitting students for its ordinary diploma programs in television journalism, television production, and television engineering. Interested candidates are advised to obtain relevant information concerning eligibility at our website at www.ntatvc.edu.ng or marketing department of any NTA station nationwide. For further information, contact Assistant Director, Marketing, NTA TV College Jos on 0803-314-4383 or the Academic Office of the College on 0806-980-9807. Announcer, Registrar.
the Smartphone Network.
In these uncertain times, one thing's certain. We're in this together. So Clean Protect, the antibacterial detergent that removes 99.9% germs while it cleans. Because germ-free clean is the real clean that we all need. Do your best to protect your family. So Clean Protect.
Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works. Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works.
And if you're just joining us, this is Good Morning Nigeria, and we're reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. Now, before we delve into our conversation on herbal remedies for COVID-19, there is a backgrounder put together by Kunle Adeyeye.
Since Nigeria recorded its index case of COVID-19 in February this year, it has gone from a frightening situation to what cannot be called a controlled one. The non-availability of a potent vaccine and cure has resulted in thousands of deaths around the world. While hundreds of vaccines are in different clinical stages globally, the Nigerian government is also striving to ensure researchers in the country come up with a homegrown solution. Consequently, the federal government announced a financial reward running into millions of naira for any homegrown remedy that will effectively cure the virus. As a follow-up to this pledge, the Minister of Science and Technology, Ogbonnaya Onu, inaugurated a ministerial committee on COVID-19 herbal remedies and natural compounds which will scrutinize various claims to COVID-19 cure.
We promised a 36 million naira financial reward to any Nigerian researcher, scientist, or traditional medicine practitioner that develops an effective vaccine or cure for the disease. We therefore charge this committee to vigorously scrutinize and evaluate all claims brought before it.
With many of these numerous claims validated by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 and forwarded to relevant authorities for validation, what still needs to be done to ensure other researchers are motivated to go into research to find a permanent cure for a virus that has put the whole world at a standstill for months? Answers to these questions and more in a moment on Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much for that backgrounder. We have guests with us here in the studios, and another guest will be joining us via Skype. First, let's welcome Professor Kalu Onwoha. He's President, Nigerian Academy of Science. Prof. Onwoha, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, a regular face on Good Morning Nigeria is here with us again this morning. Pharmacist Zainab Sharif Ujudud. She's Director and Head of Department, Traditional, Complementary and Alternative Medicine at the Federal Ministry of Health. Pharmacist Zainab, delighted to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, viewers. It's always glad to be here.
And joining us via Skype from Maryland, USA is Dr. Simon Ogwale, Leader, Africa COVID-19 Vaccine Manufacturers Initiative. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Once again, Dr. Ogwale, thanks a lot for being with us. We know that it's still fairly small hours where you are in Maryland. I believe that's 5 hours behind us. So we thank you for being up and being part of this conversation. Let's begin, shall we say, from the bureaucratic end of this conversation, but also the very practical side. Pharmacist Zainab, maybe you have the linkages between what is happening, what is being proposed, and all the ideas surrounding the search for remedies for COVID-19? In this particular case, herbal remedies. Where do we stand at the moment?
Let me start by saying that we all know that since the pandemic came in, a lot of efforts are being done by scientists in the various parts of the world. But let me come down home. In terms of the ministry or all the relevant stakeholders, it has been a search for the team, a search to see how we can process this process, to be able to come up with herbal remedies that can lead to good in the treatment and management of the pandemic, COVID-19, and possibly in the aspect of getting a vaccine that will be African, that will be Nigerian. I want to say that from this process, a lot has evolved. We've been able to see a lot of practitioners coming in to say they have remedies. But it's gladdening to say that these are people whom I always say they have the traditional science. The traditional science in the sense that God has given them that power of intuition to understand plants in their own traditional science way. And of course, bringing this together from the Ministry of Health angle, we have been able to, just recently, 2 weeks ago, the Honorable Minister of State organized a webinar with about 50 practitioners who claim they have a remedy for the management, or some of them will say cure. But you know, as scientists, there is a process. And that's why I'm glad that I must congratulate the Ministry of Science and Technology, especially the Honorable Minister, because everything starts with science and technology. Yeah. If you don't have science and you don't have technology, we may not be able to go in and get the end product that we are looking at. So it's good to be collaborative. That's my own observation, that we put all these things together. Like I said, 50 practitioners, what have we done? We've been able to identify this is what their remedy is. And even out of the 50 practitioners, there are some that are already existing in the system. There's a product that we popularly know in the management of sickle cell, and there's another potential product that is immune booster by one of our well-known herbal practitioners. So we have been asked and directed to look at those products to bring it out for further analysis and possible clinical trials. We must understand at this time that the process of getting herbal remedies starts with maybe what the practitioner says, and then the confirmation or true evaluation process. For example, for us, we decide that is the relevant effort and the function of NAFDAC. So NAFDAC should be able to evaluate this presentation by the practitioner. What is it? There are processes that NAFDAC does. One of the most easy process is what we call listing. Listing means, is this remedy safe? Once they identify that this remedy is safe, then they give it a number called listing. That means this product can be used as a herbal remedy. It's important we define and understand what herbal remedy is before we talk about pharmaceutical medicine. So when NAFDAC gives this listing for 2 years, which is re-evaluated for 2 years, that is 4 years, then you begin to look at clinical trials. And I think I wouldn't want to start talking on that. I'm sure as we go along, we'll be able to identify. But I want to say that it is good, all these stakeholders, it is important we come together as a one family. We may not know what Ministry of Health has done already. We have done a lot of documentation. We have done a lot of coming up with documents like the Herbal Pharmacopoeia, which has a list of the traditional remedies and herbal medicine that are indigenous to us. These are documents, and other we have come up working with a committee in coming up with essential medicinal plant lists. These are medicinal plant lists that whatever we want to start, there must be a platform. But I believe that as we go on, and I'm sure as the chairman of the COVID-19 herbal remedy as constituted by the Minister of Science, they will see the need for that synergy. And at the end of it, whatever product that comes out for the management of healthcare must be identified by the Ministry of Health and must be supported by the Ministry of Health after going through these various processes. But I appreciate this. I'm happy that there is a spike all over. This is something that people never want to talk about. People never want to understand. People don't even want to say. Although there are still some who don't want you to hear about remedies. But they must understand that history of medicine started with this. And we cannot pretend that we don't know that these were the traditional ways that led to the discovery of medicines. Thank you.
Well, that is a good background, Zainab Sharif. Professor Mosso Noha, Academy of Science, and of course, we can really see the background she's laid. And one may really be tempted to ask, especially those in the Academy of Science where you heard, how far so far about what she's saying?
Yes. First of all, we must commend the government for thinking inwards. And let me say, I'm chairing this committee in my capacity as president of the Nigerian Academy of Science.
Yeah, even before we get down to the committee issue, let's look at the academy itself where you head now.
Yeah, I'm trying to explain.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, because the academy is the most, as an honorific society of the best that we have in the country, internationally known in their various areas of expertise. And as president, I represent the face. We have virologists, we have epidemiologists, we have pharmacists, we have engineers, and we have earth scientists and all sorts of people who've made to get into the academy. So the government felt that the academy, that's what is done in other nations, will make sure that the right thing is done and help government identify this. That's why. And as president, I can call on it. We know ourselves, we know the topmost pharmacists, epidemiologists, and they're all involved because we know them. Now, there is no doubt that we have shot ourselves in the foot by underplaying herbal medicine and traditional medicine for many years in this country. Well, the awareness has come, not just with COVID, even before that. The Ministry of Health and other things, even WHO, had found out and been encouraging the development of traditional medicine. Now, COVID has become another opportunity. And there is no doubt that our people, from plants, from herbs, they were able to deal with diseases, even malaria, in the ancient times. And as diseases evolved, of course, there were some they couldn't deal with. We have evidence, even not in Nigeria, but in Kenya, some other places where women who were having problems with birth were actually operated upon and given something that said that before anesthesia was discovered. There was some knowledge about this in Africa. So it's become clear that we have to rediscover what we have and we have to refine what we have. So there is no doubt that, so when they touted Madagascar cure, we were laughing because we knew that in Nigeria, if the right environment was created, a Nigerian herbal solution could be found. And we are on the way. And I believe it's quite possible.
I don't want to cut you short there, but when you say if the right environment is created, what do you mean by saying if the right environment is created? Don't we have the right environment? Are we saying that maybe there is a better environment in Madagascar than Nigeria having the issue we have?
The right environment is available now. That's why we're here talking about it.
I mean before now?
Before now, if truth must be told, we were beginning to behave as if it's only the white man's way of treating diseases was the only way. In other words, even back in the villages, partially the fault is also ours, because most of the practices were conceived in mystery, mysticism, in hocus pocus. They wouldn't discuss because they will only hand over a man who knew some stuff, who hand over not even to all the children, maybe to only a favored child. And if that child doesn't succeed or is late and the knowledge is gone. And we have been downplaying even what we had before. If you go to some of the villages, what they used to do and treat people would have been abandoned. So that's what I mean by right environment. The right environment is when you begin to document, they've developed many of these. So we have the environment now. But for many years, we did not.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Noha. Let's now rejoin Dr. Simon Agwale, leader Africa COVID-19 Vaccine Manufacturers Initiative. Pascal from Maryland. Dr. Agwale, just before we delve into some of the nitty-gritty of potential herbal remedies for COVID-19, can we have some of your experience and indeed knowledge with regard to what herbal remedies there could be for other forms of viruses. Do we know of effective herbal remedies for other viruses before the advent of the new coronavirus?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. This is a very difficult terrain. As you know, we'll be mixing therapeutics and vaccines. So the first thing is to differentiate between vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics. Because I read a lot of Nigerian newspapers and hear a lot of what journalists say. They always call herbal remedies vaccines. Vaccines are not herbal remedies. Herbal remedies are not vaccines. Vaccine is a biological substance that induces immune response to protect against that pathogen. Now, herbal remedies can be a part of therapeutics because they are considered as treatments for the various, diseases that we have. So the procedure, before I answer that question, it's important for us to know the procedure for validation of the herbal remedies. Many years ago, I was at NIPRID. I was in NIPRID, and that was during the HIV era. I think about 16 different people came and said they had cure for HIV. And then the National Assembly, the government approved a lot of money at that time for us to validate those claims. And I can tell you, and you can confirm that from NIPRID, that none of those claims turn out to be effective against HIV. There was only one that actually showed some enhancement of the immune response, but it didn't go anywhere. So the procedure really is to strengthen NIPRID as an institution to be able to carry out these investigations. The first is to look at the antiviral properties of those claims, and the second is to see whether they also boost the immune system. Now, there is no lab in the country right now that can boast of having that capacity to carry out these tests, because you have to grow the virus, you test these extracts against those viruses. This is the first step, and then you test whether those things are safe, and then you test whether they have the immune properties that they claim before you move to the next step, which is the clinical trials. So I think that giving 36 million naira, I don't know what the committee will be doing, because the capacity does not exist in the first place to carry out these tests. So I will suggest that NIPRID be given the resources to strengthen the capacity, and all these people that have claims can submit their claims. They have, I think, they have the right procedure there to NIPRID, so that the right thing can be done. That is growing the viruses. We can contribute. We can help NIPRID to build that capacity and test to see whether these extracts have effect against not just antiviral, specifically COVID-19. You know that there are some HIV drugs that are working very well against HIV, but they've been tested against COVID and they have no effect. So it's not just to say it has antiviral. Does it have anti-SARS-CoV-2 activity? So that is basically what we need to talk about. If you want me to talk about the procedure for vaccines, I'll be very happy to do that. But now we're talking about herbal remedies.
Get down to the professor. It's now it's on your table. It seems like the committee.
I'm just wondering, Yusuf.
Yeah.
Just before we return to Professor Onwaha.
Yeah.
I see Pharmacist Zainab. There's the other leg of the question I asked Dr. Agwale, namely, before we proceed to say we are looking for potential herbal remedies for COVID-19, which is coronavirus disease 2019, do we know of herbal remedies that are effective against other known viruses?
Like I said, a lot of research has been done. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We have what we called WAHO, West African Health Organization, whereby we have documented medicinal plants from the West African region. And most of these medicinal plants were given to researchers to work on, researchers in the universities who work on these plants to be able to look at, do these plants have antiviral properties? Like, we should understand it one step at a time. First, you look at these plants. Are they potential antimicrobial agents? Do they have these antiviral properties? I must say that a lot of plants have been shown to have that antiviral properties. That is why you see they now call them immune boosters. Okay? I always like to mention the one people know, and the one that has a lot of work has already been done in it, both nationally and internationally within the West African sub-region. I want to say even things like Zinzibar officinalis, the common ginger, the cure-all that they claim, which is known as the alum cepa, the garlic, and then the alum sativa, onions, because we see these things every day. Because we use these things every day. We don't understand that these are the potential antiviral foods that God has given to us, which we consume daily. But we don't know, maybe because of their properties, man may not catch these diseases always. But these are well-known, documented scientifically. And the all sort of, even the Venona amagladina, the bitter leaf, these are documented science. What I want us to understand is that we must always bring science in within our terrain, like Professor has said. The villagers, you try to look at what they have done. You see, even the greatest scientists, when the evolvement of opium from morphine from opium, it was discovered that some traditional practitioners were using it as a cocktail. Then scientific research was carried on to be able to identify, and then science saw that they want more potent active ingredient. I want to bring out the inside that will specifically give me that activity. That's led to the discovery of pharmaceutical drugs through processes. 1803, one of the scientists came out with the extraction of salicin from the willow bark. If the practitioner did not use the willow bark to give the concoction, the scientists wouldn't have known that that willow bark has a problem. The problem we have here is the attitude of we, the scientists, and maybe both the practitioners. That's why I say I'm happy with this spike. I'm happy we have people coming together from the academic of science, the science of all, working to come and see that already we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like I always say, we could copycat. Indian pharmacopoeia, we have 17 volumes of Indian pharmacopoeia, which was given to us when we went to understand the Ayurvedic system. They have all these plants. What we need, do we have similar plants because of our geographical and climatic terrain? Then you start from there. We don't have to do scientific research that has no end. And I want to say that we have NIPRID, but I want to draw the attention that NIPRID is not the only institution that can be involved in scientific research. We have more than 48 universities of traditional medicine in China. We have so many universities in India. Bits and pieces bringing out together to have a cumulative effect that will lead to discovery of more medicinal plants. I don't want to say, because when you talk about plants, you tell people, Kera senegalensis, these are plants we use every day. The Artemisia annua. Why the annoyance, or why the talk about Madagascar COVID-19? You know, I laugh because the Madagascar COVID-19 has refused to tell you the other secret of the 38% constituents. You only identified the 62% constituent, which is the artemisinin from the Artemisia annua. Of course, we all know as scientists, we know that a lot has been done about why are you taking the ACT, the anti-malaria medicine. So we know that that artemisinin automatically has antipyretic property, which is one of the symptoms of COVID-19. But the 38%, the Madagascar science has not told you what is that 38%. So you may not be able to conclusively say that this thing is this. But now they have gone further. They are developing their research. Nigerian, we should begin to support our people. Support all these scientists. The 38 million is better than nothing. I think it's a starting process to give to the practitioner. 38 million.
36. Unless you have increased it.
36, I guess.
So at least to give to the scientists, to the practitioner, because they have formula. If they bring the formula and you expose the formula, you can use. So we have NEMA. NEMA is doing a lot. NEMA evaluated the product. I am glad our Honorable Minister gave the COVID-19 to 3 institutions. Gave it to NIPRIT to evaluate, gave it to NAFDAC to evaluate, and gave it to NEMA to evaluate. And of course, other universities.
Sorry, Pharmacist Zainab,
yes.
When we use these acronyms,
yes.
Let's be a bit more explicit. You know, there's flooding now. Yeah. So as you are saying NEMA now, NEMA, some people might think it's emergency management agency.
Nigerian Medical
Research Institute of Medical
Research Institute in
Yaba in Lagos.
Yes, yes.
Right. So that's true now, but Prof.
I like to answer the question. I want to directly answer the question you've asked. And the answer is yes, that there have been published reports from Nigeria of extracts that have been shown to respond to SARS virus. That was why the SARS coronavirus, others, not COVID-19.
COVID-19, yes.
Because that was particularly a question. Yes, from this country. And patents exist for that, for one of a Nigerian. So when the pandemic now arrived, for example, a Nigerian came forward and said, look, this is my work. Yeah. These are my patents. And I suspect that this, which has proven active against these various SARS, this one too, because it's also in the family, it should be easy to extend and look. Yeah. One of the first reports. And there was a meeting. The Honorable Minister of Science and Tech was interested. The Honorable Minister of Health was interested. And there was a meeting between this man. I was present as president of the academy. We dialogued with this Nigerian, and he made his presentations and so on. It's just that shortly after lockdown and all sorts of things. So the answer is yes. Some known agents that can tackle other coronaviruses had even been unpatented in this nation. That was the answer I wanted to give.
Now, let's look at the committee. The committee, for sure, because that is what is really trending now, if I may use the word. The Minister of Science and Technology inaugurated you on Monday, there about a couple of days ago. Yeah. What exactly are you going to do?
Thank you. Well, first of all, let me explain, when people talk about money, 36 million, how many dollars is that and all that. But you must praise the Honorable Minister of Science and Technology. What many Nigerians do not know is that when he made that pronouncement that if any Nigerian has anything, the index case in this country had not been imported. The coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 had not been declared a global pandemic by WHO. That was in March. But somehow the Minister of Science and Technology, as a scientist himself, somehow saw that maybe he saw into the future what was going to happen and gave that challenge. If you have been working, so we don't look at it as if you've been done something that can let Nigeria begin to position. So it's not a lot of money, but it was like seed money and encouragement. Now, the committee itself, let me say, the committee has even the DG of Nigerian Institute for Pharmaceutical Research, NIPRIT, is a member of my committee. There are many even the Director General of the Traditional Medicine in Lagos,
Natural Medicine
is a member of my committee.
Agency.
So it's a big committee. Of course, then you have epidemiologists, you have virologists there. What are we going to do? We're going to look at these people who have claims. We're going to look at which one has potential, because we believe this country, the coronavirus, a vaccine might be found and the coronavirus pandemic might end, but
a treatment.
We should expect, we had Ebola, so there may be other coronaviruses, and it is being proactive. We are looking into the future. So it's good to know what Nigerians have. We are going to evaluate them. We are going to do, some of them have gone through some process. Some of the people themselves, their institutes, like under Ministry of Health, have some already, as she was saying. And there are those who will probably show up from the villages and say they have this, I usually refer to all of them as some kind of conquer mixture that will do this.
Yeah.
We will find out what is there. Just as my colleague was saying, they'll be tested for their immune boosting capabilities. Now, about antiviral tests and laboratories. The situation, as my colleague speaking from the US said, is not very encouraging, but it is not a hopeless situation because there are labs that are coming up for that.
Well, how many claims do you have on the table at the moment?
There are several. One other thing about our committee is that even though the herbal remedies dominate, but there are other Nigerians who have made submissions. There are apps for contact tracing that involves ICT. Nigerian has developed a contact tracing app. It will be evaluated by the experts, and if it's good, that's what Singapore used, that's what South Korea used. There's a Nigerian that says, look, why you shoot an infrared this thing on me when I'm coming? If you pass through a door, he has a gadget that will register your temperature. So you won't even know. If the guy is sick, you don't have to embarrass him by stand this way. You can then call him because he won't even know when you took it. There are personal protective equipment that have been designed and submitted to the Minister of Science and Technology. We're going to evaluate all this. And we're going to involve all the agencies, just as she was saying, the Institute for Medical Research, NAFDAC, actively involved. The DG of NAFDAC is a fellow of the Academy of Science. We represent all of them.
All right, let's pause you, Professor Onoha. Dr. Simon Agwale, I want to return to you in Maryland. 6 years ago, when Nigeria had Ebola brought into the country by Patrick Sawyer from Monrovia in Liberia, there was a similar committee that was set up to evaluate all kinds of claims. And I think you had an experience with that committee. From your experience, what advice would you like to give to the instant committee now headed by Professor Kalu Onwoha?
Well, I think we have to be practical. We have to get things done. Science is global. We have to follow the procedure for drug development, vaccine development. Now, like I said, that is the procedure. You test first in vitro to show whether that compound has activity against that specific virus, number one. Number two, whether that compound is safe. Then you can move to the next step. Once you establish that, the data is sent to NAFDAC, that is a regulatory agency. They look at it, if it is safe, if it has that effect against the SARS-CoV-2, then they give you permission to do clinical trials, which is in phases. So the first phase of clinical trials, as far as remedies are concerned, is what we call open label. Open label is you take 10, 20 patients that are infected, and then you do before, after. Before, you take their data, biochemistry, hematology, and all that, and then vitals. And then you put them on the treatment, and after, You take the same parameters and compare, and then you can now say this product is effective against this. Now you've crossed the first. If you have 10 patients and 10 of them are cured, that doesn't mean that your product is effective against SARS-CoV-2. The next step is to do randomized placebo-controlled trials where you have an arm that will not take the drug and then another one will take the drug. And then you can now see the effectiveness of your drug. And these tests, these clinical trials are very expensive trials. And this must be done before you can categorically say that this particular compound has activity or is effective against this particular disease. This is the procedure. So once you do that, then the data after the randomized placebo-controlled trials is submitted to the regulatory authority. The regulatory authority will look at it, and then if they are satisfied, they will now license that product for use as a drug against that particular condition. This is the procedure. We cannot bypass, one procedure and then go to this, because you go around the cycle and then nothing will be done. Like you said, during the Ebola, we had HIV, nothing came out of it. Ebola, what came out of it? The same thing, the same story. So we have to be practical. And the practical way of doing this is, like she said, we have 46 universities, we have pharmacy departments, we have traditional, this thing around. But we don't have the resources. So why don't we concentrate the small funds that we have to one institution that is charged with that responsibility, which is NIPRI, to build the capacity so that the right and the proper clinical trials can be conducted. And then we come up with a product that will help our people, and then who knows, probably the solution will come from there. But we have to do the right thing. Now, putting funds forward to say this is the price. If you come up with a cure for COVID-19, this is the price you will get. This question is, who fund the studies? The study has to be done first to establish the effectiveness of the drug before you win the prize. So who will fund the studies? These things are not cheap to do. Give me an example of vaccine trials, for example. The whole process from the exploratory to licensing is about $100 to $1 billion to develop one product. Just one product. So we can't sit down here and talk about $100,000, which is the price. Who pays for the various assays that needs to be done? Now it takes me to the efforts that other countries are putting to develop or come up with solutions to end this epidemic. This is an epidemic that has cost the world trillions of dollars. I heard the vice president said a few months ago that this pandemic is costing Nigeria about $200 billion 200 billion naira, every month. So if this thing is costing us 200 billion naira every month, what is wrong in taking at least 100 billion naira, for example, to set up these capacities so that we do the right thing and find solution to end this epidemic?
All right, Dr. Simon Agwale, thank you very much. Dr. Agwale has raised some very important points. Those points relate to the funding of the work of the committee and the interrelationships amongst the committee members. What do we know at this time about how the committee intends to work? Is each of the entities, each of the participants going to fund its own operations, or there is a common pool of funding? How then do you manage sometimes disparate, if not competitive, interests that you would find in such an amalgam of professionals and experts? Very quickly, Prof.
Yeah, maybe, first of all, people think it's like the committee is going to come up with, this man has won the prize, this one has won the... No, it's not about that. Let me just clarify that some of the people who have come forward, who are coming forward, already have NAFDAC listing. So what we are supposed to do is to look at the whole process. Some of them may need to look at where they are producing from and recommend. The key thing that is lacking in this country is what my colleague from the US was just saying. It is a money for clinical trials. Some of the people have been struggling with clinical trials for long, for what they have already passed the listing stage from traditional medicine. So we will now be able to recommend. What is exactly saying is where we are going to. If we can recommend now to the federal government of Nigeria, we've looked closely, we, the academy, with all these organizations that are in this, that this has promised, and then whether it's at NIPRID or at NIMO or even in a University of Lagos or wherever, or Abuja, where we decide, or we create like they do in India Institute of Medicine or whatever, where this will now be done.
Well,
so it's not that the money, even the Minister of Science and Tech is going to look for the money, but he needs the evidence that to support. Most of the clinical trials have not been done.
Yeah, all right, thanks. Very quickly, we know that there will be no shortcuts, and indeed there are no shortcuts to all of this.
Yes. No.
But does your committee have a time frame?
Yes, initially for at least, the work is in phases. This first phase now is just to interact with those who made claims. They should come and demonstrate. And then quickly, I believe there'll be some of them that we will quickly know that it's not feasible. Then it's to separate the wheat from the chaff. That's the very first stage.
All right, pharmacist Zainab, you are hopeful that we're on the right track in terms of collaboration and cooperation?
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad.
The question is not for you.
I am glad, but I feel there should be more synergy. There should be really more synergy because, like all we have said, if there's that synergy coming together, what do you have? What do I have? How do I consolidate? You must remember that at the ministry angle, there are policies. We set these policies, we set these documents for implementation by the relevant agencies. So it's always important that we come together a lot, like the minister has said. You must bring all of us together on board so that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And I'm glad that you have said there are phases. But what is important in all this to our government is that, to all Nigerians, is that we must do that political will to support this research. This committee may be able to come out with potentials. And it's not just that you will just say, this is the one. But what I see is that I am an advocate of this empty space waiting. Before you go and get a vaccine, before you go and get the pharmaceutical drug, it's going to take how many years? Isn't it? You know it's going to take years.
Oh, sure.
So what will you be doing? Like I always say, my father has, for example, my father has diabetes, and there's beta leaf that could be used in supportive, that could be made into phytomedicine before I go to pharmaceutical drug. So do I tell my father to wait until 10 years when I brought the pharmaceutical this thing? So there's always, that's the purpose of remedies, which we can use.
Zainab Sharif,
Thank you
thank you so much for
It's a pleasure.
those elucidations. But it seems like this topic is very much inexhaustible.
Yes.
We really have time for that, and then talk much more about it so that we can get into the, the center of it and then have it out for the people. Well, thank you so much for being part of this program this morning.
It's always a pleasure.
Professor Kalu Motsonoha, we thank you so much for
coming,
and then we wish you all the best in this great assignment.
We'll do it.
Simon Agwale from the United States, it's our pleasure you've been with us this morning after having to have, gone out of your comfort for a while. We thank you so much, and we hope you're going to be with us. When next we come with this topic, really, because it's inexhaustive, we are going to take it up and then get you across. It's our pleasure we've been there. We now take a break. We shall be back in a moment. Good Morning Nigeria continues.
A new edition of TV Guide is out, featuring great personalities from all walks of life. expository interview with a young TV presenter who shows passion on what she does, Morayo Afolabi Brown of TVC. Pick a copy of this compendium of mind-blowing stories and get abreast with issues as regards media convergence, leadership, health, star profiles, star programs, fashion, sports, human angle stories, and lots more. Meet some media professionals within our space who have paid their dues in no small ways. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white cloths, towels, and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it. Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white cloths, towels, and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you from Africa's largest TV network, the NTA. Now, the federal government has approved commercialization of a biotech cowpea variety resistant to pod borers, making Nigeria the first country ever to commercialize genetically improved cowpea.
That's right. Now, the approval has been given for the registration and commercial release of the pod borer resistant cowpea, and this is after more than 10 years of intensive trials of genetically modified cowpea and a breakthrough in eradicating what is referred to as Maruca vitrata pod borer. That's an insect that can cause up to, it is said, 80% yield loss in cowpea production.
And to educate Nigerians on this, we have Professor Emmanuel Ikani, Professor of Extension, Nigeria Agricultural Extension and Research Institute, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, and Coordinator, Cowpea Promotion Nigeria. Thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria. We also have Abdurrahman Yusuf Kolo, Project Manager, BT Cowpea and Africa Agricultural Technology Foundation. Welcome to the program, Yusuf Abdurrahman.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Right. All right, just aside the numbers we just said a while ago, namely that the pod borer could result in up to 80% loss in yield, even against the background that Nigeria remains the largest producer of cowpea around the world, according to some estimates. So what's the big deal about this new genetically modified cowpea variant that we now have?
Okay, Prof, yeah. Thanks for having me. The big deal about it is that we now have a beautiful bride in our hand for the beans industry. The cowpea we are talking about is beans. The beans that is used for your momo, for akara, for your rice and beans. That's what we're talking about. Nigeria, like you say, is the largest producer and consumer of these beans. And yet, we run into deficit of about 500,000 metric tons every year. And one of the reasons for this deficit is the insect we are talking about. It's causing this problem on the field. And so, I need to say that modern agriculture is driven by knowledge, by expertise, by technology. So this is a product of technology that came up by our own university, Ahmadu Bello University, the Institute for Agricultural Research. In Nigeria, a professor, Professor Hishaku, went to this with the support of AHF, like you just said, for over 10 years, and this product came out. And it's a technology that I think we should embrace. I need to say this, that it is a Nigerian work that has gone through all the conventional scientific moderation that they found safe, worthy. And Nigeria did it. I mean, the last time I checked, I've never seen any nation that is developed and is by maybe government or politicians. Nations are developed by citizens. This is citizen of this country that is doing this. And you need to know this. It is unfortunate that we misconstrued when we discovered petroleum oil and abandoned agriculture. Until we fix agriculture in Nigeria, this country is going nowhere.
Let's talk about this.
So I need to let us know that this product is a powerful, bright, a beautiful bride that we need to embrace. And I want to suggest that the product before this is less than 500 per hectare, 500 kg per hectare. But this one has the potential, the capacity to give up to 3 metric tons per hectare. And that's a good achievement. And because there's now a downturn of the number of sprays, the traditional one, before you pick it from the field to the table, the spraying of chemicals is about 10 times. But with this, you do only 2. And the implication is that the chemical residue that goes into the grain is reduced. And that's actually the reason why most of the time we can export our beans, because the international has standards. One of them is the residue in the beans. And so this is a major breakthrough, and the thing that's into it that are bringing the products to the fore. Now that the federal government has officially approved, after going through all the processes that have been officially released, and the job we're here to do is to tell Nigerians that we have a good beans in our hand, and that we should embrace this new baby.
Isufu Kolo, my namesake, let me just get down to you and then find out. You are the head and the project manager of BT Cowpea Africa Agricultural Technology Foundation. How far have you gone in trying to get this new product to, out to the people to use?
Thank you for asking these questions, because usually people, why I'm glad you asked this question, people don't know how long it takes to develop a varieties. So the work started, in fact, we have been the cowpea scientists. We had a network called Network for Cowpea Genetic Improvement in Africa. We started tackling Maruca problem since 1987. So 1987, biotechnology was in infancy, not very developed. So we were using conventional ways. There is a very bright scientist, a Nigerian scientist working for ITA, who was a cowpea entomologist and breeder. Very, one of our senior bright scientists. So we gathered all the world collection of cowpea at ITA and giving African scientists who were screening them. Means testing them for resistance. This is what the word screening means. If you can find a natural resistance. Until 2000, we screened the whole world germplasm, the whole world collection of cowpea. There is no resistance. This is what led farmers continue. The only way is multiple application of insecticide, chemical insecticides, with all the secondary consequences, bad consequences. So then in mid-90s, what happened? Basically, in US, the BT corn and others, because corn and others crop have the similar insects. Not the same, but similar borers. And they too have the same problem for a long time. Corn growers don't know how to control corn stalk borers and ear borers. So until this technology came, so we said, but why don't we turn to this new technology, which is largely adopted now in the US? Why don't we turn and adopt it? So let's sit down and write a research proposal around 2000. And it was written and accepted. We financed it. USAID, we turned to USAID, which accepted to fund the research. So basically, since 1987 up to now, it was only last year, but only by using biotechnology, we were able to get breakthrough. So you can make the arithmetics. It is more than 10 or 15 years in the development. So it is minimum 15 years of efforts by different scientists.
Well, congratulations. Really.
Thank you.
You've got far in that.
Yeah.
But when the Prof was talking about, beans being the cowpea, and everybody knows that is what it is, we are the largest consumers, and of course the largest producers, and it so seems as if you are not, comfortable with the rate at which our farmers are growing beans at the moment. That's why you've come up with this new brand, and they really want to inject it into the market. What has gone wrong with the old one, in spite of what you're seeing? Everywhere you go, you see beans all over being planted, and cowpea, as you call it.
Okay. First thing I want to say that's wrong with the old one is low yielding. Two, even the yield is attacked by the insect we're talking about, the pod borer, and can destroy it on the farm to the tune of 90%. I mean, so there's everything wrong with that. So what we're bringing on board is actually the same, but with this new technology, taking advantage of biotechnology and genetic engineering, brought this new trait into it to be self-protecting against this insect. And so the laborious act of spraying chemicals and dazing is being reduced. That labor is being taken up. So the thing that is wrong with that one is low yielding, and two, subjective. Like you said, over 1,500 varieties were screened to look for the one that can withstand this insect. None, all over the world.
Okay, now, let's understand this. We have had cause to deal with some of the issues relating to the preservation of grains, particularly in markets. Yeah. Now, what the common person knows is the weevils that will bore into the beans or some other grains that are so susceptible to be bored into. Is this also a protection against the weevils that are already in market stores and shops?
Okay.
No, if you don't mind.
No,
this is not against the weevil. Although the weevil, we got some techniques have been developed where in storage you can control. If you have the double bag techniques and other, you can control the weevils, at least minimize the damage. So weevil is certainly one of the most damaging insects, but this is storage. But before you go to storage, you need to produce.
Yeah, sure.
So the question is what Professor Ikane was saying. With Maruca is an insect which survives most of the time in the southern areas and migrate north. So it attacks, the flowers are already destroyed, the growing points. So when you have your plants have just 3 or 5 pods, you didn't know that this plant, if Maruca was not present, you should have 20 pods. Mm-hmm. So it is heavy, the losses are heavy and hidden. Mm. But scientists working on cowpea, agricultural research scientists, are seeing this every day. If you control Maruca, absolutely control Maruca, instead of having 5 pods on your plants, you can have more than 20. So this is why we targeted first, we need to control Maruca. When you control Maruca, other people are working already on the storage insects.
Is this similar to what they call the tomato Ebola? This something absolute that came around sometime. No, it's not the same thing. It's different. Or army worms or all of that. No. It's different.
They are from the same group of big insect family. It is almost butterfly, but the one which came out by night. We call them in our jargon moth. So you see them only by night. But it is the larvae. The female lays the eggs and the larvae does the damage, not the adult flying. So Tuta absoluta is also a moth.
So it's the female that does the damage? Like an Anopheles female mosquito that carries the Plasmodium vivax that causes malaria.
I didn't
kills millions of people around the world.
I didn't say the female, I said the larvae.
Oh, but you said the female.
They lay eggs. So the eggs, from the eggs, the larvae hatch and get out. So
I know that feminists will be up in arms
so
against
we call them caterpillars.
That was just a joke. I'm just wondering. I mean, you know, and this question is going to Professor Ikane, and indeed, of course, to Dr. Yusufu as well.
Yeah.
Look, there has been an advocacy in developing countries against the rise of GMOs. Is this new variety that is said to be pod borer resistant, is this GMO being snaked into our agricultural value chain?
I like the question, and I know you're going to ask it.
So what's your answer?
It's actually the first GMO product we are releasing in the agri space in Nigeria. And I want to say this, that the concerns people have, including us Nigerians, about GMO or about any new product, is normally a product of lack of knowledge, ignorance, or vested interest. At times could be because people are afraid to embrace change. So those are the, so for what you are here to do is, if you, the best cure for ignorance is knowledge. Provide the information. That's why we're here. This product, like I told you, started over a decade away, over 10 years ago, and has gone through all the scientific, you know, Nigeria has a biosafety management agency. They've done all they needed to do to make sure that this is safe as food for human beings and as feed for animals, and even to the environment. That they have done. NAFDAC has gone into the team. The National Seed Council went into it. Before the federal government, I mean the Federal Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, got convinced and approved it and presented to the presidency before the official release on the 28th of February 2019. And so this is safe. And you remember during the avian influenza, the chicken thing, and neighbors were scared. I remember the Minister of Information then came and said, oh, you can eat it, and he was eating it live on the TV. You remember when the cassava, when cassava was introduced to be infused into bread, all of us were scared. What has cassava flour got to do with bread? And the minister kept on saying, and now any bread you eat, and even the biscuit, has flour to it. And so we need to provide information that the federal government has agencies that have responsibility for food safety. And this product was presented to all these agencies. 10 years move. And so I want to advise Nigeria to embrace this. It is safe.
Okay, now that you've said it's safe, can we confidently say that it's going to be in the market soon? Or how soon do you think you are going to release it to the market? I hope you are released to the market is not going to take away or rather put away, if I may use the phrase, put away the traditional one at a go, because it seems as if people are very much used to that at the moment.
That's a very good question. This one is not to put away the old ones. In fact, if you see the new baby and the old one, it's the same. You'll be able to differentiate it. But see, a good market sells itself. That is one. Two, what we are doing there now, before we put an innovation, a product to the farmers, there's a need for sensitization. That's what I heard. In the last 3 weeks, we've gone to train all the directors of extension in the country, around the country. 600 of them with their extension agents, online because of the pandemic. Then we moved down what we call the step-down training to train over 6,000 farmers across the nation, telling them, we went with training manual, we went with posters, we went with fact sheets about this product. And right now we're doing what we call the bulletin, how to do it from the field to the table. Like you were talking about, the fear of the one in the storage. The training also includes how to store in the sense that the other insects will not come in. But like you said, we need to first of all have it in the store before you control the insects in the store. And so the training is ongoing. By the next 1 month, the bulletin will come out from a month bulletin for how to, right from planting to eating. All the fear you want to have about it is taken care of by information.
Dr. Yusufu, I wanted to also respond to the concerns that have been raised about GMOs, because we do know that there was some uproar in some developing countries when they were almost being compelled to accept GMOs. Zambia, for instance, they said you must accept it, otherwise, there could be some economic sanctions. So once again, this pod borer resistant cowpea, is this GMO through the back door that we are introducing into our agricultural space? That's one. And secondly, allied to that question would be, look, where will the seedlings come from in order to, assuming that this is safe, where will the seedlings come from to get to the farmers after the extension work?
So you get, thank you for your multiple questions. I will start by saying GMOs are safe. I did my studies from BS to doctorate in US. I was growing GMO, I was eating GMOs. And today, if you drink Coca-Cola or you go to ShopRite, you buy milk, probably 99% chance is the cow where the milk came from is fed with GMO soybean, even if it is in Holland. The reason for the fears, which I would like to say something, I will transgress a little bit before going into with your accord. People have to be, people have to be very careful. Africans. When it came in the 1960s, 70s, when it came, India and Asia were going on the agricultural revolutions. Hybrids were being introduced, new type of varieties. What were people saying concerning Africa? Oh, these technologies are not for Africans. Africans are not ready for it. And where did we end up? Massive importation of foods. So there is always a romantic view presented to us of our system, very romantic view. We should go traditional, we should go. No, we need to develop, to modernize. Africa is not on planet Mars. Africa is on Earth. Whatever technology is good for others is good also for Africans. Maybe we don't have the means to bring it. But when we have the means to bring it, it is a crime not to bring it to solve our problems. So GMOs are very safe, highly safe. This is one of the most scrutinized safety-wise food ever to be put on human being table.
That is the cowpea.
No, GMOs in general. These are the most analyzed, scrutinized.
That is it.
Yeah, the cowpea is safe. We did all the safety tests, we did all the analysis, we submitted our dossier.
Yeah, but we cannot end the discussion without having to know the timeline or the target when these things are going to come into the market.
If it were not for COVID, sir, I will tell you, if not for COVID epidemics, the commercial seeds should have been available
to farmers.
To farmers this year.
All right.
It was COVID.
Who produces the commercial seeds? You know, that's part of the argument against GMOs. That's a topic for another day anyway. We have had to engage it on Good Morning. Just hang on a second, Dr. Sofu. Look, it creates a monopoly and then a dependency on a single source. That's the argument that has been made against GMOs. But in this case, in terms of safety for human consumption, you have indicated that the pod borer resistant cowpea has cleared all the tests. I will take your word for it. On that note, we'd like to thank you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Professor Ikanin Emmanuel from ABU, and Dr. Isufu Kolo Abdul Hamane, who is of the Cowpea and Africa Agricultural Technology Foundation. Gentlemen, our pleasure having you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
All right, so it's Good Morning Nigeria. We still have the last topic, and that has to do with the National Identity Day. Take a short break now.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
This is NTA News 24 broadcasting from Abuja. You can watch us anywhere, anytime on the following platforms.
Start Times, Channel 101, Free TV, Channel 703, GSTV, Channel 419, and Go TV, Channel 46.
For more information, log on to our website www.nta.ng or join us on our social media handles, Twitter at NTA News 24, Facebook at NTA News 24.
For comments, suggestions and inquiries, send an email to news24@nta.gov.ng or call us on the following numbers.
NTA News 24, news and more news.
Today is the second anniversary of Nigeria's National Identity Day, and the theme is Identity for Health, Sustainable Development and Growth. And in the studio with us to discuss the need for legal identity for all Nigerians and all citizens of the world is Aliyu Aziz, Director General, National Identity Management Commission, NIMC. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria.
What's up today?
Well, today is Identity Day,
Right.
and we are so happy that this is the second commemoration day to make identity very important and as foundation for almost everything to do with our existence. Just like a child is given a name, it's the same thing with identity. And today we celebrate the SDG goals 16.9 that talks about giving identity to everyone, including legal identity, including birth registration by the year 2030. And we want to beat that target.
I don't want let me just get across. Yeah. I would not want to define the significance, as you've already said, of an identity. Everybody needs one and should have one. And how does this one influence development?
Well, as I said earlier, you need to know your people. And by knowing your people, it allows you to plan. And when you plan very well, then you'll be able to budget properly, and also you should be able to develop. And by knowing everyone, then it is the foundation, as we said, for almost everything that we do. Similar to when you see early this year, when we were enrolling for JAM candidates, and there was our places were jam-packed, and we suspended it. Immediately then we were suspended from some form of US visas, and a presidential committee was set up again to look at the identity issues. Then came, before even the presidential committee finishes, then came COVID-19, and then it makes it very, very clear that we do not have data, and we need data to even help and give palliatives to the general public. So it's very, very important.
What is the linkage between observing the Nigerian National Identity Day and getting all Nigerians, or most Nigerians, since you are doing it in phases, get their NIN, which is the National Identification Number, and indeed the National ID card? So what is the linkage? And where are we with all of these two very important steps, the NIN in the first instance, and then the National ID card?
Well, our focus has been on the NIN. That is the digital identity. Once that one have gotten the NIN, you are very much in tune that you have some form of identity. Why? Because now we are in the 21st century, and in 21st century we do almost everything in digital form. We do digital payments, we do digital communication. Therefore, that allows us to use the NIN as the foundation for identity. Card is much more of some form of convenience, and ours is a general multipurpose card. Therefore, the memory is very large and so is expensive. And since we have entered some form of recession, so we thought that we should suspend the card for now and focus only on the digital identity because of our size also. We are more than 200 million and we are increasing every year by more than 7 million. But so far, we have enrolled 42 million. And we think that with the new program of the ecosystem, in maximum 3 years to 5 years, we should be able to enroll everybody and give the digital identity, which is the National Identification Number, NIN.
Let's clarify something. I mean,
Yes.
when you said some form of recession, the Minister of Finance will not agree with you. Because, yes, even though we had a negative growth at the end of the second quarter, the results for the third quarter are still being expected. If the results are negative, then technically we'll get into a recession. But I understand what you are saying. I mean, the coronavirus pandemic has crippled the global economy, as it were. But how do you guarantee the integrity first of the enrollees and the authenticity of the claims they make as to being Nigerians? Because if you say you are enrolling people in the digital identity register, as it were, I mean, we know that somebody would normally ask you, go and bring a letter of introduction or identification from your local government headquarters. And some persons have argued that, unfortunately, the Nigerian national passport has gotten into the wrong hands of other nationals who claim to be Nigerians. So how do we guarantee that those who have the NIN are indeed Nigerians?
Well, first of all, if we understand the characteristics of identification, first of all, as we said, in 21st century, it has to be digital, so it's the NIN. Secondly, it has to be biometrically based because that is what makes the individual unique. And when we talk of biometrics, the first biometric is the face, because if you communicate, it's the face that you see. The second one is the 10 fingerprints that we take, and then the third one is the iris. So our focus is to get this biometrics. Then it doesn't matter if I call myself as this in one place or another place I said A or another place I say Abubakar. It doesn't really matter because these biometrics will make me unique. And secondly, that is everybody in the soil of Nigeria that has to be enrolled, because somehow you have to be, if you don't enroll any person, then you leave loopholes for the fraudsters to now come into the system. And it does not confer, the registration, the NIN does not confer citizenship. Even if you are a foreigner and you are legally resident, you spend 2 years in Nigeria, you should be enrolled and be given the NIN. Otherwise, we then create some loopholes. So, public, like what we are doing now, informing people about their identity and letting people to know the importance of their identity, because it is the foundation for the development that we do. And also, we are not alone in this world. We are also related to others. That is why this comes from the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Therefore, it is a requirement and it is very important. And if we get all our traditional rulers, the religious leaders into the picture, and all the other government agencies, because government is made up of many, many agencies, but it's one government. Therefore, if we work together and not in silos, then we should be able to achieve this, and then the development will happen, and even corruption will be eliminated.
Please, I would like you to clarify this. You made the point a while ago that the NIN, that's the National Identification Number, does not confer citizenship.
Yes.
That is dealt with in Chapter 3 of the Constitution.
Yes.
But you also said that foreigners who are legally resident in Nigeria for up to 2 years, you said,
yes, sir.
can also have the NIN.
Yes.
Now, what is the validity of the NIN? For how long can you hold a NIN? If I live here for 2 years and I acquire a NIN, and the third year I take off, does that NIN continue to remain valid even if I'm living in Australia or in New Zealand or in some other part of the world? For how long is it valid?
Yeah, because you now become a digital citizen. Therefore, your NIN is valid until when it's rested. Therefore, the validity is between birth. The moment a child it will be given the NIN, and until death. So it's only after death that NIN can be rested. And that number will not be given to any other person again. Because as I said, we are in digital era. It's not like telephone number that when you don't use it, it will be given to another person. No, it's going to be specific to you, to that particular identity, because we all agree that with the face, fingerprint, and iris, then you'll have uniqueness, and it is assigned to you.
Is the NIN not a prerequisite for acquiring national ID card?
Yes, it is prerequisite for acquiring everything, including
national ID card specifically. Let's stop at that.
It's prerequisite for national ID card, for passport, for voters card, and everything else.
But how do you reconcile there for a foreigner who is resident in Nigeria, and then for 2 years and whatever he gets the NIN, and then ultimately he may get the national ID card?
No, national ID, you should be given a national ID card. National ID card is also, as I say, is for convenience. Any person that is given NIN and is 16 years and above is entitled to the national ID card. Mind you, I said the national ID card is a general multipurpose card that have many, many functions. Therefore, everybody should be given. There's no discrimination in giving the national ID card.
Where is the venue for enrollment for the NIN? As you said, I mean, when you had the Jambites who were struggling to register, your offices were swamped. And I think there was a time also, on account of the coronavirus, some of your operations were scaled down. So now that the economy is reopening, if not fully opened yet, where is the location for enrollment? And what is the cost, if any?
What is the
cost of enrollment, if any?
First of all, there's no cost for enrollment. Government agrees that your first contact with NIMC is free, and it will continue to be free for especially the ecosystem that we talked about. Right now, we have about 1,100 centers nationwide. So we are in all the local government areas and special centers, some banks, and we are working on getting onto the ecosystem whereby all the telcos are also using their outlets to issue the NIN. All the banks are going to issue the NIN, and also all the PFS, the pensioners. So all the sectors have now embraced the NIN. Therefore, we will be able to then scale up and have all Nigerians, because we are large. We agree that what we have now is not enough. That is why we came up with an ecosystem. And very soon, when we start it, we will move.
All right. Thank you very much, Engineer Leo Aziz, Director General, National Identity Management Commission. We'll like to, of course, join you in celebrating the second anniversary of Nigeria's National Identity Day. So
thank you very
good luck and best wishes.
Thank you.
All right. So that does it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. We'd like to thank you for tuning in. We are back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, stay safe and be well. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Yusuf Nadal Guzman. Thank you so much for being part of the show.